Hello and welcome. My name is Carsten Lützen. I'm an Agile coach facilitator. Today I will talk about this sentiment mapping exercise that is really useful when we're doing retrospectives or after action reviews or just following up on something that we have done together as a team. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing and sharing. That would be super awesome. So the fundamental idea here is that we create a timeline. And then we have sentiment on the y-axis, and the timeline can be either just a sprint. It can also be a multi-year thing that we have been through together. It again depends on what is it actually that we are reflecting on. Then, depending on the timeline and depending on the situation that the group, it might make sense that you ask the sponsor or a select group to pre-populate the timeline with some of the big events. And then in the session, we will do a 1-2 for all, so 1 minute individual in silence, 2 minutes in pairs, 4 minutes in a group of 4, and then in plenum to populate this. So what are the major milestones and major events that we need to make sure is shown on this timeline? So it can be maybe that we had a sprint review here, or we had a delivery of something here, and so on. Just so we know roughly what is the time scale here. So when we agree on a timeline, we can go to the next step. And that is mapping in the sentiment, because now we know what are the different events that we should map. And we can do this in different ways. One way I like to do is just individual and in silence, have a figure like this. Of course, we won't have all the events on it, because we just did those in plenum, right? But when we look at that, how do we see our sentiment? So then with the events, then each of us individually and silence draws like, okay, so in the beginning, I was super not happy about this. And then we started to get problems, and then it just like got worse. Then we got some help. And then at the end, we maybe ended here. Again, that varies a lot. When we have drawn this timeline, then add sticky notes. So why did we start here? What happened here that made it decrease? So at all these points, turning points, what were the things that I observed that changed my sentiment against the project? That is quite interesting to do individually, right? And then when we've done that, take it and then pair up, compare notes with another one. How did they see it? And then slowly we can start to see trends of how people perceive the project, because there are often some types of similarities and overlap, but sometimes there's also some outliers where it's like, why did this person end down here? That's maybe a really interesting discussion to have. So again, the second step, 1-2 for all, is quite nice. And then we can do follow up with what now what, and then this was the first one, right? Or we can do some just brainstorming. What good activities could we do based on this? So it's a lot of good options to follow up on this. I'm super curious if you have used something similar at one point in time, then please share. Or if you have comments, questions, ideas, or feedback to these videos, please leave a comment or send me a message. That would be super awesome. Yeah, I guess that's it. Have a super awesome day.